announced earlier, the second input that I wanted to deliver is now on writing, say, style. Writing style is usually, it's not the right word, because styles are different things. It's types of articles and maybe formats. This is what I want to highlight a bit more. What's that? Yeah. So what can help, I think, is writing perspectives from which angle you want or you plan to write. And I mean, maybe, as Geoffrey just mentioned, your individual perspective. I mean, it's also appropriate if it helps. I mean, and it's not forbidden. It's not. I think it's not a no-go, because, as I promised, we are focusing today on writing the formats and types outside the academic world. Not writing classical scientific articles. So yeah, come back. What is kind of, from which perspective you want to write this? From an observer, from a bird's eye perspective, societal perspective. So you want to address some issues, some health issues, for example, then you don't need to be a doctor, you don't need to be a hospital, you don't need to be a medical association to write about a societal issue, right? Health concerns. So this is maybe an appropriate angle, but we have here, say, representatives from travel agencies, for example, as the intermediaries. They are somehow in between. Not easy. I think it's not easy. But every time when I say, oh, it's not easy, it's difficult, it's a challenge, this is another perspective. Yeah? I think it's not only allowed and it's a welcome to write about the nice, the shiny, the glossy success stories. Yeah? Of course, if you have something like that, something that you look back and say, wow, we could achieve that, and look, here is the evidence, and that's changed, it's nice. It's also appropriate to discuss and really detail the challenges, the process, the problems. I mean, it's not a given that every time 50 people come, meet, conference done, hooray, legacy. Simply report on that. Huh? It's not that easy. And I think it's absolutely appropriate, at least I speak now for our journal, you know, to also to write in of course, in a solid manner, not writing complaints, but to say, hi, and we try to tackle and we introduce different steps, meetings, roundtables, and so on. And what is the outcome? And what are the problems, you know, to bring people on board? And we had a chat in the break, right? To also to consider that. You know? So it's not only writing about the nice success stories. So somewhere maybe in between, organizers, venues. Yeah, I mean, from a venue perspective, I know that more and more the conference sites, the businesses that run that, I mean, and Geoffrey explained that briefly, what tools and instruments they introduce to be greener, to be more sustainable and eco aware. Yeah? Water, electricity usage, and so food, how we, you know, treat the food supplies and so. But is it in line? I mean, does it sell? You know, is it easy to convince associations to also take it on board and to coordinate those attempts? I mean, of course, it is building related. If you have water from the roof, okay, I think it's not a matter of negotiation, but there are other activities that maybe your participants have to kind of comply or play their role, then it's an issue, right? So various things that we are not in silos. Yeah? But when we try to write about it, this is what I wanted to mention from the very beginning. It's important to identify the theme, maybe the area, can be very small, little, can be a larger thing in society. And then as a writer, you have to think about from which angle, which perspective you want to write. Now, in our journal, and it is very common to most of the academic journals, you have those article types. And they usually, for say, the better quality journals, we apply a so-called double-blind review process, which means it is reviewed, it is assessed by someone else, and usually it's 2 people, sometimes it's 3, independently, and they don't know who the author is. This means double blind, so it's not, they don't read that evaluation. It means that it is anonymous. The reviewer doesn't know the authors, and the authors don't know the reviewers, which should help to be fair, to be objective, and so they simply to explain what is double blind. And we have kind of research papers, we have shorter versions, research notes that are based on new results, and there are also commentary papers. So where scientists or academics maybe comment on trends, but commonly academic things trends. So I not skip, but don't elaborate on that too much. I wanted to go and stay for that session now on the, say, you can call it professional papers or papers from professionals, from the industry. And here also maybe to explain or avoid any misunderstanding, we label that, but it doesn't mean that here no academics are allowed to write, and vice versa. The differentiation, the differences is simply based on how we generate new knowledge. So yes, science and academia have to apply different tools, different evidences, usually, different evidences, and then they can claim, oh, this is a new insight, this has proven, this works or doesn't. Practitioners, they also generate knowledge, insights, valuable insights, but usually they don't have the instruments, the time, the resources to run surveys, 400 people, and they collect data, blah, 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 I don't know, from so and so many other businesses, and so they will not do it. They observe, of course, usually you observe, you take signals from the market, from the industry, and you make your own kind of model and explanation. You explain the world, make decisions. That's the way. Now you can say, and does it make sense? Is it valuable enough to share? I think it depends on how you work and write about it. If it is structured, if it's consistent, and you can truly make the claim, hey, this is, I mean, evidence and signals, everybody else can also see that if they pay attention. So why not share it? Now, so brief, this is in brief, my short explanation, because what I experienced over the years that academics, they sometimes say everything what practitioners, managers say, do, write, kind of, so it's not too serious because there is no evidence, and it's not true. Evidence is experience-based, through managerial experience and practices. Usually you don't have the complete set of data to make the proof. You don't have a statistical proof, but you have years of experience, you know what works and what did not work. And this is what already in the 60s, more than 50, 60 years ago, people, scientists, academics, they detected. This is sometimes called knowledge in an organization. It is sometimes soft data, without hard data proof, but it is information. So, and again, at the other side, practitioners usually sit and say, why should I read 10, 20 pages and all the evidence? It is too long. I have to work. I have to take decisions fast. So there is a discrepancy. Long time, nothing new between academics, and practitioners. So what can we learn from each other? We can. And this is, I stay here for a few minutes because our journal tries to cross that, to overcome a little bit that kind of false perceptions or attitudes. And this is why we take really papers like those here very serious. We dedicate 50% of kind of as a target, half of the volume always for such type of contributions. As long as I think the writing, it's not something that you write or a journalist writes on in a newspaper. So as long as it's not advertising and structured and well prepared and not private and sensitive data, why not share it? So we can learn as long as others can learn from such insights. Why not publishing it in a hopefully well-established journal? So we apply a peer-reviewed contribution. So you say not double-blind, but we review. So we help the original author to improve the quality and also kind of assure that it's not advertising, so it's not biased. It should, even if a company writes something, it should not be, we are the best and look at us, and kind of. So to keep an objective stance, and this helps a little bit, but it's more about that we don't miss out important elements in writing. This is why we apply a peer-reviewed contribution. So this is maybe the difference to a trade magazine, where some journalist or maybe some employee of a company or an organization writes something and it gets published. So we differentiate these three categories: communications brief, which you will see is a bit similar to a research note in academics. We have a full paper and we have research notes, which is a condensed, smaller version of something that is maybe new. An industry viewpoint, so as the name says, a particular, say, industry perspective could be the venues, could be the destination organizations or other players, other stakeholders from that particular perspective. Practitioner reports, you can also call that maybe a case study report. About the case, I mean, if you come up with a case illustration of a particular event and talk about or write about, say, legacy impacts in a structured way, maybe it's most appropriate to do such a practitioner report. So now this is, I know, I share later with everybody the slides, so don't try to read. Here is a nice overview I found, and that might help you not only for writing for our journal. So kind of a bit of a characteristic and profile of a scholarly journal, so academic papers, a trade publication, meeting industry, for example, professional travel agency, you have an array of trade publications. Then general interest magazines, I don't know, National Geographic is a general interest, it's not so general, it's already specific. Newspapers, popular magazines, sensational magazines. I mean, it's not now for our purpose. I think this is what I try to make a bit clearer now during this session. With our industry practitioner papers, now we are here in between. As I mentioned, a trade publication will not ask or will not apply a review process that we do. And in trade publications, you find featured articles, where there are companies that showcase what they do, what type of business and services they offer. So, a few things that I want to mention. So, what is the difference to scholarly? Scholarly is the name for academic. The purpose, I think, is a bit similar to others, but of course show original research, experimental things. We will not do that. Practitioner industry paper. Of course, why the target to support your own insights? I say I exchange research for scholarly academic opinions, so expectations. We write, of course, academics write for academics mainly. Yeah, we know from the audience that practitioners barely read academic publications, even though it is always a conclusion of what I'm doing. So that what is the implication for the industry or the practice? For reviews, what type of language we use? I mean, in academics, of course, the terminology can be very, not weird, but very, very particular. This is a convention because academics try to make it precise and clear and come up with definitions if the definitions are not clear. So definition and terminology is very important to avoid misunderstandings and variation of interpretation. I think here we can immediately say, okay, in an industry paper or a paper that's written by practitioners, we don't need to be too strict. I mean, of course, it should not be simply everyday language like you would find in a daily newspaper, because still the audience is not the general population. How to use sources? Yeah, of course, it is nice to have, but this is what my perspective is really a difference. You don't need to make a reference and a claim to resources for every single thing that you find important or relevant. So there is a proportion of faith and good belief, that, okay, the author claims or makes a statement about the industry, the market, through the insight, personal insight, and not because, we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studies, and So this is, I think, it's a main difference. How to provide evidence for, say, maybe new things. Images, I mean, only limited. I mean, in academic journals, you will use it simply for structuring things. There are some journals, that have applied a different research method, and they use really photographs. But this is rather rare. But can differ, I mean, for industry practitioner articles. So here is a bit the other extreme, that the trade professional articles provides news, trends in the field. I use them, stay up to date on trends, breakthroughs. Who is it for? Written for practicing professionals. Who writes? Written by industry professionals. Here, let me add and repeat. What we really encourage is that we see articles written by teams, academics plus practitioners, because we know that worldwide, when it comes to legacy impacts, this documentation is is mostly done in collaboratively through universities or people, academics in destination or associations that are involved in organizing such events. Review, mention that, also often mentioned with an article, but not typically formatted as bibliography, so not that strict. We refer to official statistics of the industry. You say, okay, the Chamber of Commerce wrote or issued the most recent index on that, or the Malaysia statistics, for example. You would mention that in a professional trade article, but maybe you will not put exact reference below. So come back to our three categories again to give you a bit of an orientation. A communication brief, or you can also do the other side around. Brief communication is something like a research note. I also found it's maybe for those working in marketing, there is a term called a creative brief. When you kind of pitch a campaign and you engage a professional marketing agency, then you will come up with a creative brief because you are the brand company, the product, and you want to now get a campaign set up and introduced. Then you have to write a creative brief, objective, target audience, product benefits, what media probably you want to use or you leave it open, and so on, and which elements you need to keep or to have it. And then an agency can work from that. And then it's similar, of course, the objective is different, but you also have an objective with any paper you write. You have to think about what is the objective, what is the message that you want to come across. And then you prepare, okay, the background, what is the industry, what is the perspective you write, what happened, what are the actions, what are the results, what outcomes, and what can we take away, recommendations, and so on. A title should not be too long. Sometimes academics, they write 2-3 lines as title. It's not necessary and not real help. For such a type of papers or articles, be limited so as an orientation to 1,500 words. These are nothing more than 3 pages A4, so without images also. So of course in our journal format it's maybe five pages, but anyway, not too long, and we are not strict because we are publishing online, we don't print, so it's not too much of a restriction. But think about, and this hopefully breaks any concerns. Can you write 3 pages? It's not a book, it's not even a long article. So it's rather, I think it's rather already the challenge to really keep it that short. Because usually if you collect a bit of, writing about processes, development, so you have material enough. So it's rather sometimes a challenge to keep it within that limit, but again, it's not a hard limit. But what does it mean? If you write a 3-page article, do you need the headline, sub-headline, and such structure? No. If you write it in a very captivating way, you don't need headlines. It's the flow is already so good. But if you use I don't know, 2-3 headlines to structure background production, I don't know what happened, outcome with it's okay. But and not here we say about the abstract, because many journals they require now the authors to even write a structured abstract. One sentence, maybe maximum 2, 4. Problem statement, method, design of the method, result, implication, and so on. So minimum 4 or 5 kind of headings, up to 7, and make for each 1 sentence, maximum 2 if it's short sentences. So this is what we call a structured abstract. It's not all journals require that, but anyway, for a communication brief, for short articles, we don't need that. Because if you read an abstract, the structured abstract, it is already more than half a page. What's the difference to going through 3 pages, right? And have to think about that. So the layout, because I mentioned that you have not necessary that you have separate sections, but of course, if you structure 3 sections, for example, it's okay. Helps the reader to go through. Usage of figures or tables should be restricted, I say here, to 2 1-page graphs and so on in text volume. And if you don't have so much space to elaborate, to explain what's in a graph, what's in an illustration, in a table, then it's also not good. It's not balanced. Yeah. References should not be, academics are sometimes feel pressure, and they have 5 pages of references and 3 pages text.
Prof Andres.
Please,
Prof Andres.
Yes.
I'm very excited now. I guess the participants are also excited to kickstart their paper. Do we have a template that we can download and start working on our titles, our content?
No, I don't have the template because it's, you see, this is for such things. We don't need a template. No, I don't have it.
Okay. Can we start? Will we have an opportunity this afternoon to draft a template, like a framework? Most of us have our laptop with us now.
This is exactly what's the wrong approach. Yeah? It's the wrong approach to work with a template with 4 headlines, and everybody feels pressured to use that template. This is not okay.
Okay.
You can do that for a thesis, yeah, where this is standardized, highly standardized, and if you violate that it's not good. And this is the wrong message.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, sorry.
And so we have a flexibility to with our own template. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I don't want to, because the stories are different. The message is different. The background is different. Yeah. So sometimes it's more observational about processes. Sometimes it's about the one particular outcome, and you come up with more data, because there is a little bit of a survey. You have spoken to 20 participants or something, and you want to summarize that, something like that. So it's really very, very different.
Okay.
So
will we be showing our past issue with the participant today on the papers that have been published before?
You can do that. I recommend that in the afternoon. Yeah, I recommend it, but this is up to Prof. Madre.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
This is why many participants have their own notebook here. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Prof. This is very important.
Yeah.
So very suggestion on font size. Very suggestion on font size.
Oh, I mean, we format that. I mean, I know 12-point Roman, but we format that. We are not so strict because for submission or writing. Why? Because it's online, and we format that in the right format. So it's no worries about font type, Thank you for the question. I mean, it's relevant, but for me, this is a minor. Yeah, typesetting, really the format layout. This is standardized. We do that during the final editorial polish. So the second type that I want to briefly comment on is industry viewpoint. As I mentioned before, it's maybe also it's not longer or shorter, but it is a typical, probably a typical, say, challenge or success story from a particular industry. Could be airline, transportation, could be PCOs, could be universities, yeah, and so on. So, and probably the line of thinking and is different compared to if I take the point of view of a society or of a community that we have a problem, lack of awareness of traveling with people with disabilities, for example. Yeah, that's because our colleagues mentioned that earlier. This is a typical societal. It is not an industry viewpoint. I mean, yeah, we can write that from an accommodation provider or mobility. I mean, where are we with the people with, say, various disabilities? It's not only mobility; it's vision, for example. Right? How easy, how difficult it is, and again, linking it to business events is not too difficult. Yeah? But I'm very grateful that you mentioned that, even though from a diving perspective. But this is also something which is long time. I mean, hidden. It's not because, of course, it's not the majority. But I know that from a travel industry perspective, this is a nice niche. I have seen that. I observed that in Europe, and I supervised a PhD colleague who wrote about that for vision impaired people. Yeah? I mean, fantastic. It's not only scientifically, academically fantastic to address that, but because it is relevant. It's not a mainstream thing, but highly relevant. So coming back, industry viewpoint. Yeah? Again, I give a few ideas to how to start. I mean, it's related to an issue or derived from a problem in the industry, in the sector, or writing about typical characteristics or because you are employed, or something is employed, policy or some scheme, some particular products or services. Here, I'd say industry, but please let us not forget government agencies. That is also stakeholders. They have their problems. They want to set up or introduce policies or incentive schemes, enabling legacies for the communities and so on. And last but not least, also NGOs, which are maybe in between. I'm interested to mention that before. Maybe interesting partners, bridging that. Who brings in the, say, problem, a local problem that communities have. Typically, they take care, right? They take more care than any PCO that sits far away, or an association, headquarter or regional branch of a global association. So this is, I think, very interesting. So I encourage NGOs to write a viewpoint. Nothing I think too much that differentiates here. Nothing that qualifies our viewpoint. It's rather personal, right? And differentiates it. Last but not least, I mentioned that Lincoln. Somebody co-moderating in change it. I'm out. I don't know why I'm blocked. Sorry. next page. Oh. So, now we're so far. The third category, maybe very easy, a practitioner report / a case study. Case study can be something that happened in the past, but I want to include, I mean, maybe it's not a complete case study, but when we talk about legacy, always have a component of future that we don't know what will exactly happen. But we can identify avenues of development where we open the door, where we enable structural changes. Then that's my point. This is where we cannot make the proof what will happen in 5 years. Whether the vaccination rate is 20% more or the death mortality rate goes down by 5%, we don't know. But we can project and say, yeah, if we have a better understanding of this and that, if we have better technology, if we have better infrastructure in terms of medical services, public health, including private health services, we can expect that people are better protected and so on. So, all that can be traced down to a component, a case report about a particular thing that's maybe this is the easiest way for so many of our participants today. Again, you say any type of paper, how is it? This is industry approaches, strategy, so on. And I link it to a particular company or institution / writing about a particular event. I put here the 1,500 words. I added now the question mark because I thought, can we really do that? I mean, in a sufficient way. Maybe this is where you have to relax a little bit more, particularly for the case study, because otherwise you say, okay, you write a case study, but the case study is rather comprehensive to understand really the background, and you need to document a few more things. So again, don't consider that as strict. And now we have a paper kind of in the pipeline where I invited the author. Please split it into two. It is so rich. I don't want to squeeze it because of that limit. So it was so rich that we make part 1, part 2, and we also